Today's class is on Heart Healthy Eating Part B. We are going to continue talking about the important aspects of heart healthy eating. My name is Jenny Tackett, and I'm a registered dietitian with Rock Valley Health. So along with looking at your sources of fat and how much fat you're eating in your diet, which we talked about in Part A, it's very important that you have a high fiber diet. And the goal is about 25 grams of fiber per day as a minimum. Around 25 to 35 is a good goal. Fiber is found only in plant foods, so this is the opposite of cholesterol, which was found only in animal products. Fiber is part of the cell wall of plant foods, so it's found in foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, and peas. So if you look on a food, an animal product, on the food label, you'll see that there's no fiber. If you look on a food label for milk, cheese, yogurt, meat, eggs, you'll see 0 grams of fiber. So we're only getting fiber from plant foods, and fiber serves a lot of important benefits in the body. There's 2 different kinds of fiber, and they're listed here on the slide. There's insoluble fiber and there's soluble fiber. When you eat plant foods, you're getting both kinds, but they have different roles in the body and are helpful for different disease prevention. So insoluble fiber is found in the outer bran layer of grains. So that's why whole wheat bread and whole wheat pasta, brown rice is so important, because that outer bran layer is left intact, which is an excellent source of fiber, especially insoluble fiber. And also the skins of fruits and vegetables are a source of insoluble fiber. This insoluble fiber can help with regularity, and that can help prevent constipation and diverticulosis. And a high fiber diet is also associated with a reduction in the risk of cancer, especially colon cancer. So it's really important to include some of these high fiber foods in your diet. Soluble fiber is the kind of fiber that can help with cholesterol levels. Soluble fiber is found in oatmeal and fruits and legumes, which includes beans, peas, and lentils. And if you can imagine the kind of gummy texture of oatmeal, that's the soluble fiber. And that fiber binds onto things called bile acids that are very high in cholesterol. And then you excrete those bile acids from your system. So eating oatmeal, for example, or fruits, with your breakfast can actually help reduce your cholesterol levels. Fiber that's in these foods, the soluble fiber, can also help slow down how fast you absorb sugar from food. So for example, if you would eat an orange with your breakfast, a medium orange has about 15 grams of sugar and around 3 grams of fiber, a lot of that soluble. And that soluble fiber slows down the absorption of the sugar into your bloodstream. If in comparison you would drink juice, the equivalent of a medium orange for juice is just 4 ounces of orange juice. And even the really pulpy juices have less than a gram of fiber. So those 15 grams of sugar that are in the little 4 ounces of juice rapidly get into the bloodstream. So that's why it's important to pick whole fruits over juice as much as possible. Some ways to increase fiber: high fiber snacks. The best snack that you can have would be a fruit, vegetable, a small handful of nuts or seeds, something that is contributing some fiber to your diet. Breakfast is a great time to increase fiber. There's a lot of whole grain choices like whole wheat English muffins, whole wheat toast, oatmeal, fruit, including at least 3 servings or 3 ounces of whole grains each day. So choosing, for example, 100% whole wheat bread. And if you make a sandwich using that bread, picking 100% whole wheat tortillas, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, oats. Those are all whole grains, and those give you the benefit of fiber along with nutrients such as magnesium, which are important for blood pressure control and overall heart health. Including legumes, which are beans, peas, and lentils, at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, or around 5 cups per day, whether it's 2 fruits and 3 vegetables or vice versa. Really up to 10 servings a day is the recommendation, but looking at where you're at now and trying to work towards those goals. Eating fruits and vegetables with the peels or skins on gives you more of that insoluble fiber. I mentioned picking whole fruit over juice. If you do any baking at home, you can use whole wheat flour, and that still has that outer bran layer that is high in fiber. And it's important to read food labels for fiber. A lot of people don't read food labels for fiber. They look at a lot of other numbers, but fiber is listed right here under total carbohydrate. So it's part of this total carbohydrate. This example does not have any fiber. There's a lot of cereals, breads, and crackers that appear high fiber that really aren't when you look at the food label. So really take the time to flip the container and look. So this example, serving size is half a cup. There's 33 grams of total carb. 4 of those, 4.2 are fiber, 11.5 is sugar. So these grams of fiber are not going to cause a raise in your blood sugar. So that's a benefit. And then they serve, important purposes in the body as they pass through your system. So besides fiber, another aspect of heart-healthy eating is not overdoing the amount of sodium in the diet. Sodium attracts fluid, and that added fluid can raise your blood pressure, and it can also lead to swelling. So if you notice that there's a line where your socks are or your rings don't fit, that can be related to the amount of sodium in your diet. It's recommended that you take in no more than 2,300 milligrams per day of sodium, and that's about the amount of sodium in a teaspoon of salt. But you do not have to add any salt to your foods. You can very easily get to that 2,300 milligrams just from sodium that's added to processed foods or that's in some foods naturally. If you look at a meal per meal basis, that's about 500 to 700 milligrams of sodium is a meal's worth. Now, next time you look at a food label, just remember that 500 to 700 milligrams is a meal's worth of sodium. There's a lot of foods out there like canned soups that are over 1,000 milligrams per cup, or things like Hamburger Helper, macaroni and cheese packets. Those little packets that you add as flavoring are usually packed full of sodium. Now, we only need a bare minimum of 500 milligrams per day. That is assuming, that you're not doing a lot of activity out in the heat. But we don't need very much sodium. Most Americans consume well more than that and more than the recommended amount. So most women around 4,000 milligrams per day and most men around 6,000 milligrams. So a lot of us could use cutting back on sodium. Most of the sodium from our foods is found, or in our diet is found from processed convenience foods. So all those things I mentioned, canned soups, Hamburger Helper, ramen noodles, macaroni and cheese, rice-a-roni. Only 25% is actually from adding salt or other high sodium ingredients like soy sauce. So just taking the salt shaker off the table does not guarantee that you've really reduced the amount of sodium in your diet. You want to be looking at food labels. Restaurant foods as well. I don't know if I pointed out, but restaurant foods are another big contributor. So this shows you a large curly fries at Arby's is 3 meals or 2 to 3 meals worth of sodium. A baked potato, which gives you a lot of nutrients with light sour cream, is only 50 milligrams of sodium. So huge difference there. A cold cut combo, some of the Subway sandwiches are quite high sodium with lots of different meats versus just roast beef. It cuts it in half. And this is more towards that goal of 500 to 700 per meal. And then Taco Bell, there's a big stuffed burrito that's huge, and it's going to have a lot of sodium compared to just 2 tacos. So you can make better choices at restaurants. You really need to be aware of portions and of some of your choices. There are some label terms on the nutrition labels that have to do with sodium. These top 3 are very good to look for. Sodium-free, very low and low sodium. These 2 are pretty tricky. Reduced or less sodium or light in sodium is just comparing it to a product. So, for example, soy sauce has 1,000 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon. Light soy sauce has 500 milligrams per tablespoon. Remember, that's the amount in a meal, 500 to 700 milligrams. So 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce is a meal's worth of sodium. Most people would eat a lot more than just that. So those light or reduced options, you really want to make sure you're looking at how much sodium is in there. No added salt or unsalted is good to look for. There may still be some naturally occurring sodium, but things like unsalted seeds, nuts, or canned products are good choices. And then some low sodium meals are actually advertised that way to encourage you to purchase them. Now, a diet that is the most recommended diet out there and is very related to heart health is called the DASH diet. And DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. It's an eating plan that's very low in sodium, low in saturated fat, which I talked about in the last class on heart healthy eating, and it really emphasizes whole foods, so lots of fruits and vegetables. This is what is recommended. And people with high blood pressure on medications were put on this diet, and most of them were able to get off of their blood pressure medicine just by changing their diet. First of all, these choices are low sodium. They're also high in certain nutrients that help control blood pressure. For example, whole grains, 4 or more whole grains per day. That's a great source of magnesium. And then weekly, nuts, seeds, and legumes. Beans, nuts, and seeds are also really good sources of magnesium. So by following this diet, you up your magnesium intake. And getting magnesium from food is the preferred way. Any of your nutrients are going to be more available from food. And then fruits and vegetables and low-fat milk are good sources of potassium. And milk is also a good source of calcium along with some of the dark green vegetables. And then meats are included in smaller portions, kind of an emphasis on leaner things like poultry and fish. So if you're interested in an actual prescription, a diet plan, the DASH diet is a good one to look up. It is the #1 recommended diet. Making changes gradually is always what I recommend. So reducing intake below 2,400 milligrams, looking at labels, trying different herbs and spices, and then maybe looking into that DASH diet. But heart healthy eating is really a lifestyle change. You need to be eating healthy for your heart throughout your life. So just thinking of ways, from the last class, ways that you can switch to healthier fat choices or ways you can increase your plant foods and incorporate less sodium in your diet. So we'll end with 2 questions. The first one is, how much fiber should you try to have in one day? And number 2, where do Americans get most of the sodium in their diet? All right, well, this concludes part B of Heart Healthy Eating. Have a great day.